Steve, it's 1:03. We've got one more person checking in. I'll go ahead and remind everyone we are recording, and I will remove.
You may have gotten out here a little too early. I thought Jerry Powell was out there, but when I talked to him this morning, he said he hadn't gone out yet.
And maybe somebody, I'm going to mute everybody, so we'll get that out. And Steve, it is all yours.
Thank you, Cecil, and welcome everybody. I need to count down how many more meetings I'm presiding, just to keep Jeff on his toes.
Okay, let us pray. Loving God, as Rotarians, we are committed to promoting peace, fighting disease, providing clean water, maternal and child health, literacy and basic education, and economic and community development. Keep us ever mindful of these high ideals to which we aspire. We thank you that we are part of a global community dedicated to these avenues of service toward making this a better world. Be with those who have special needs, those we've named today, with Steve and his surgery, with Paula's dad and her family, and others we name in our hearts. Bless our time together and strengthen us to love and serve our neighbor in all that we do. Amen.
Thank you, Sandy. And Dean is our sergeant at arms today for the pledge and the four-way test.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And the four-way test of the things we say, think, and do. Is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? And will it be beneficial to all concerned?
Thank you, Dean. You did that as if you didn't even have to read it.
I know. Yeah.
Okay, it's happy dollar time. Who has happy dollars today? Paul.
I wanted to put in, I was telling Dad about our group and our happy dollars because we kind of had a lot of time to sit and talk. And so he said, when you get back, put in 20 happy dollars for me. So I'm going to do that for Dad.
That's great. Is he funding that?
No, I told him I'd do it for him.
Okay, anybody else? Well, I'll put in $5 for Heather Gates. I was had a meeting with the district governor the other day, and he said she was being a big help with their peace initiative efforts. And so I'm very, very pleased that Heather's joined us and that she's very active in the district activities for peace.
This is Paul. I don't know if you can hear me. Can you?
Yes.
I want to put $5 in. Several of the Rotary folks have helped with cables for our drive-through coming up at Long's Chapel for Easter, and I wanted to thank them.
Did you say $5?
Yes. Hmm?
Very good. Anybody else?
Last week, for the first time, we visited our family in Greensboro, had a glorious celebration of our 17-year-old grandson's birthday. So $5 into the happy fund.
Very good. Thank you, George. All right, if that's all the happy dollars, we'll move on to announcements. If you saw spoke today, Cecil reported that we have $715 pledged toward the bus cameras, and that leaves us with $1,285 to come up with our $2,000 to match the district's grant. Backpacks, I talked to Bill Owen yesterday and he said those are going well. Dean, do you know who participated today, or Larry?
Myself, Charles Umberger, and Bill.
Okay, Dean, that's your week to do that. We had 6 people that opened the door yesterday making sloppy joes and potato salad. And that included myself, Larry Leatherwood, Bill Owen, Susan Sarles, Rick Croskery, and Jonathan Jorstad. And that's all that I have in the way of announcements. Anybody else have an announcement for today?
Steve, we received an additional $250 donation toward the bus cameras after that spoke came out. And Ron Leatherwood's waving at you.
Well,
Just want to put on everybody's calendar that I heard from the Glory guys in Lake Logan is planning on having their fundraiser that first week in August. And many of us have volunteered previously to help the bike riders at intersections. And it's a fundraiser for the club. They pay us $2,000 for it. And we need about 40 volunteers, and we can't get it through our club. We've reached out to the early club and the Haywood Club for other folks, but I will, as I get a schedule, I'll put that out, but put that on your agenda. And if you want your favorite intersection, you can start sending me emails and let me know. But I think it's August 7th. I don't know if that's a Saturday or not for some reason sticking in my head, but just put that on. It's early in August and it's on a Saturday.
that's great. Hopefully we'll get to do that this year. Rich, are you waving at us?
Is that the first Saturday in August?
It has been traditionally.
Okay, thank you.
August 7th is the date.
Very good.
It'd be this. I think it was the 7th.
Any other announcements? Okay, very good. Paula, you want to introduce our program today?
Okay, well, with us today, we have Roger Sullivan. Following a career in higher education and major institutional fundraising and consulting, Roger now devotes his time as a volunteer battling childhood cancer. He's president of Childhood Cancer Optimist Club that is dedicated to supporting the work of Children's Cancer Partners of the Carolinas. He and his wife, Laura, are residents of Spartanburg, South Carolina, and have a home on Utah Mountain here in Waynesville. So here to talk to us today about what he does is Roger Sullivan.
Okay, so I want to talk with you. I hope you can hear me. I want to talk with you today about Children's Cancer Partners of the Carolinas. But first, I want to talk to you about a young girl named Tracy. That's not her real name. We're not allowed under HIPAA rules to divulge identities. But when our organization expanded to Western North Carolina 4 years ago, Tracy was one of the very first children referred to us, and we've helped her through a very, very difficult time. She had extensive treatments at Duke and was resident there, inpatient for extensive periods of time. Leukemia has become a very beatable form of cancer, but not always. 14 days ago, just 2 weeks ago, Tracy passed, one of our children and one of your children, because she is from Haywood County. And that's the focus of what I want to talk with you about. Cancer is and remains the #1 disease killer of children in America. Somewhere it strikes another child every 3 minutes. Here in the Carolinas, over 600 children are diagnosed every year. They join an estimated 9,000 children already in treatment or remission. And think about what it's like when cancer strikes a child. Frankly, it strikes an entire family. One parent stops working to be a caregiver. Siblings aren't quite sure where they fit in and have to step aside so much of the time. Household income plummets. Imagine a single parent household where this occurs. And I must tell you that about 1/3 of the families that we assist, currently 1,350 families across North and South Carolina, 1/3 of them are headed by a single mother, a single parent household, a single mother. And it is an exceedingly difficult time. The treatment may be 15, 20 times a month at a hospital that is 100 miles away. Your nearest facility is Asheville Mission Hospital, but many of the children have to go for more specialized treatment in other places. Those little stars are the only places where children can be treated for cancer. You and I can go to 100 places. I'm a 3-time cancer survivor, and I've been to 3 different institutions in the course of time for early and successful treatment. But for children, there are just those few places. Again, your nearest is Asheville, but I can tell you that none of those facilities in the Carolinas have all of the treatments that are the latest and current. So often children must travel to New York, to Philadelphia, to Houston, elsewhere for more specialized care. Whenever you hear the term clinical trial, and it's a standard term in all of medical research, but when you hear it in conjunction with a child with cancer, take a breath and understand that this means that the child has run out of local choices. This is their last chance. There is an experimental treatment somewhere that is the only possible source of remission or cure for them. That's where Children's Cancer Partners steps in. It's an organization that began 20 years ago in Spartanburg as a local service club project. After a period of several years, it was incorporated. It became a public charity with 501c3 status. And fast forward to 2016, the organization was discovered, so to speak, by distant benefactors who saw the extraordinary lengths the organization would go to assist families, and gave a challenge, an expansion challenge gift over a period of years to enable them to expand. And that is what they did. They expanded to the upstate, then to all of South and all of North Carolina. And at this point, all 146 counties across the 2 states. What they offer to families, and the children are referred at diagnosis at the treating center, is the certainty of access to care. The top priority is making sure children get there. And there may be, as I mentioned before, maybe New York, it may be Houston, it may be, we've had situations with clinical trials in New York where we had a half a dozen families at one time invited to a trial for their child in New York. And we were asked if we could get that family to be there 18 to 20 times for 8 to 10 days at a time to undergo treatment. We did. 5 of those children are currently cancer-free. 1 unfortunately didn't make it, and that's the nature of clinical trials and experimentation. The organization offers a variety of support and assistance to families. A lot of it is in the psychosocial realm. When the families are referred to CCP, a trained family advocate meets with the family to understand their circumstances, learn from them what their challenges may be. Many of these families are facing challenges. 1 in 5 children will not survive a diagnosis of childhood cancer, but those who live in rural or poor families face a risk 3 times greater for late or misdiagnosis, undertreatment, relapse, or death. And so these are the children that CCP tries to focus on especially. Camp Victory was a little different this past year. We hope it might be back to being an in-person experience for children in the coming year. But this past year, it was Camp in a Box, if you can picture this. The families participating received a box with all of their camp activities and games, and even the marshmallows and chocolate to make s'mores, and a little thing that would bake it for them. But it's one of the things that we do in the course of the year. It's not the big thing we do. That's 365 days, 24 hours, 7 days a week, making sure that the families get to treatment. But it's certainly one of the most visible things that we do. When these distant benefactors, and truly they don't live in the Carolinas. When we first began to communicate with them, they said, "Where the heck is Spartanburg?" And finally found it on a map. But they challenged us to grow, and we did in the several steps that you see here. First across the upstate, then all of South Carolina, then all of North Carolina. We've been all across North Carolina for a full 3 years now. Owing to the population differential, 2/3 of our children are in fact North Carolina children, and we receive referrals at the rate of 35 to 40 every month. You do the arithmetic, and that helps you get pretty close to that 600 number. You know, there are a lot of organizations around, and you know some of them, and we do too, that do some wonderful things. You know, weekend trips and junkets and an occasional food basket here or there. Our focus is making sure that those children can get the treatment. When a diagnosis occurs, it's as if a ton of burden falls down on a family, and families of limited circumstances, families who are distant from treatment centers, often begin to think that their child is probably not going to be able to get the care that they need. That's why we immediately connect up with them within 24 hours of referral to us, and we assure them we're there with them throughout the journey. And we'll make sure, whether it's mileage reimbursement or airfare. We've had situations of a single mom who she'd never left the county, never mind, but on an airplane. But her child was referred to Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center in New York City for specialized care for retinoblastoma. Her little daughter had already lost the vision of one eye, and it was a hope that an experimental treatment there would be successful for her. Well, we had to help her figure out how to pack for TSA, what it means to get on that airplane, how to make your way through LaGuardia Airport, how to get a taxi and get yourself to Midtown and to the hotel that we booked for her this past year. By the way, the Ronald McDonald houses, they're wonderful, but they were closed. So when our families would travel to distant places, we had to assist more than usual with local lodging, hotel accommodations. Hospitals demanded that the patients arrive a day early so they could be COVID tested, which added to the challenges and burden of it all. But those are all the things that we do. You see on the screen reference to critical home care and emergency response. We step in when a family's living circumstances are in jeopardy. This past year, gosh, dozens of potential evictions. Well, we know that they were protected, but these are families who are at risk. The mortgage bankers weren't very forgiving. The insurance companies, some of the folks had private insurance. They couldn't pay the premiums. We'd step in and take care of those. So we assist with that. The most tragic emergency response, and it applies to Tracy, the little girl I referred to. She's age 17, who passed away 2 weeks ago. As we assist with funeral expenses, we help the family with the cost of the funeral. We help get them to grief counseling. This year, in addition to the Camp Victory that I told you about, we're going to initiate a thing called Camp Rachel. Rachel's a very special girl. Her situation is the one that attracted the attention of our benefactors for our expansion challenge. And we'll have a bereavement camp. We'll bring there the families who have lost children, and we'll have there Rachel's parents and others who will be the kind of counselors to these folks. It's really pretty special. By the end of this year, this calendar year, there will be more than 1,700 children in the Children's Cancer Partners program. And that's 1,700 or more precious promises that we have to figure out how to keep. And we're working very hard to achieve the long-term sustainability that will get us there. Now, here's just a fun thing I'll tell you about, something you might consider doing right in your Waynesville community and throughout the county. Kids and Lids was invented by a 10-year-old, a healthy 10-year-old whose schoolmate was stricken with cancer, and she wanted to figure out a way to help. She got a pep talk from the CCP executive director, and she marched into her principal's office, which at 10 years old is a pretty uncommon thing. But together, she and Principal Jeremy Darby at Campobello Grambling School invented a day, an event. Didn't have a name then. Every kid who came to school that day with $1, like your happy dollars, every child who came with $1 could wear their favorite hat in school all day. Every teacher, parent, staff member, visitor who came to that school with $5 could wear blue jeans in school that day, which was otherwise not allowed. They raised a little over $1,100 at that one little grammar school. And we said, this looks pretty good. Gave it a name. It's called Kids in Lids. It's a registered trademark now of Children's Cancer Partners. And it will be our relay for life. I happen in my fundraising years to have spent a lot of time doing a long-term project with the American Cancer Society headquarters in Atlanta. Even got a grant to take Relay for Life to Europe for them. But I can tell you that Kids in Lids has every much in proportion potential for Children's Cancer Partners to be that long-term source of sustainability. You think of all the schools and all the kids, the healthy ones, who could do something as simple as this and is great. We were set back this past year by COVID. We just weren't able to get into as many schools because, of course, they were closed, so many of them. But we're back on track. We have a virtual version of all of this, and we're seeing some pretty great creativity out there amongst the kids to make this work. So let's put this in focus. We've been, CCP has been assisting in Western North Carolina for nearly 4 years. We have 65 children in those counties of Western North Carolina. Most of the children have their initial, or at least some of their care at Mission Hospital, but many of them have to go elsewhere. We have currently 6 children in Haywood County. That does include Tracy, I talked to you about, because families stay with us. We stay with the family for years following. They hear from us on the anniversary of their child's passing, on the child's birthday, and some of them are our finest volunteers. So we see referrals from, these are the hospitals that we see referrals from across the Carolinas, and the size of the pie slice is represents the size of the pediatric oncology program at those institutions. UNC is in Chapel Hill is number 1, Duke number 2, and so on. Levine in Charlotte number 3, etc. Mission Hospital referred 21 children to CCP last year. It is not a large pediatric oncology unit, but it's certainly a wonderful one, and visited there just a couple of, well, a little over a week ago to bring some in-kind assistance that we provide to families that we get through the United Way in-kind center that's connected up with Walmart. So it's important, I think, to put things into perspective. What I'd like to share with you as a takeaway from this, and happy to respond to questions and some conversation here, is that cancer is the #1 killer of children in America. 1 in 5 children do not survive. Children of rural and poor families are at 3 times greater risk. 600 or more cases every year, and the incidence rate has been rising, not rapidly, but steadily rising for the past 40 years that the data has been captured. There's already 9,000 children estimated in the Carolinas who are in remission or surveillance or survivorship, as it's referred to, and many of them, most of them, will have some kind of lifelong health complication. It may not be debilitating, but it will be there for them. We stay with them until they turn 21, and the families understand that we're with them long term. Late effects, after effects, makes no difference to us. We respond every chance we can. So that's my story, and I would love to respond to any questions that you all might have. come back with on screen with you, and we can visit. I know I may have exceeded my time limit.
Oh, no. You didn't mention St. Jude's in Memphis. You work with
Well, I'm
them?
glad you did. I'm glad you did. St. Jude's is a wonderful, wonderful research hospital. They have been responsible for a great part of that progress in leukemia. Leukemia used to be deadly in 9 out of 10 cases for children. Now, 1 out of 10. And that was the story for poor Tracy that I talked about. However, out of the 16,000 cases that are diagnosed across America each year, St. Jude's takes about 200. It's a confusion to people because their fundraising megaphone is so big that it overpowers that sense of it. Children's Cancer Partners is actually asked regularly by St. Jude's to assist in paying for some of the expenses that they don't cover. It is absolutely true when they say that they never send a bill to a family, but they do have a bit of a list of things that they don't pay for. And they raised $1.4 billion last year, but CCP still assists with Carolina families whose children go to St. Jude. So, sir.
This is Paul Irvin. Do you do, I know you're mainly funding, but do you do any coordination or partnerships around, I know at Duke, for instance, they have a very strong children's area, but they also have some outstanding speakers that, and writers actually, that have written children's books, whatnot, and their major interest is in children who have cancer, dealing with them, but they've partnershiped actually with the Duke Divinity School, and there's where they have joint faculty on both the theology school and the medical school. And they have a program called the Theology, Medicine, and Culture Fellowship. And it has a course of study that helps doctors and nurses, whatnot, to be able to do what people like Francis Collins did, and that is that to see how faith really is important in science and medicine.
It is important. So to answer your question, we don't have a direct working relationship with that particular program at Duke, but Duke is our second leading referral source. Our head of program, our director of family programs, was a pediatric oncology social worker at Duke before joining us. She is, and this is pretty interesting to our program, she is herself a 23-year childhood leukemia survivor. And so she knows what she's talking about. But yeah, the Duke folks have some wonderful resources, and we connect with them mightily. It is a best practice at Duke Children's Hospital to refer every child diagnosed with cancer, every family, to us.
Well, particularly in the area of how you counsel with families and children, and that's where I think the theology school comes in as well. But
Yes,
I do think that what you're doing is critically important, and I do know it takes different strokes for different folks. But it was interesting in the major endowment campaign Duke had called the Forward campaign. It was interesting that one of the most favorite, there were two favorite speakers. One was Jeremy Bigby, who's from England, who's a music guru. And the other one was this young man who was the children's cancer person who also has written books. And they were the ones, whether it was in New York or California or in North Carolina, was the one that was most popular, knowing what the schools are doing, not just in the traditional studies, but kind of breaking out and doing what our new culture maybe would help.
Yes.
It would help with. But thank you for what you do. It's very important.
Well, it's the drama outside the clinic that people don't see. When cancer arrives in a family, strikes a child, there's an isolation that begins immediately. The child is immune suppressed. They're out of school. They travel to treatments and back and forth. They may be confined at home for home care, and they just drop out of sight. really. We work with them all. Tomorrow night, there will be families all across the Carolinas on a Zoom call like this one, but a little different. They're going to be having pizza night and playing bingo together. And we've got a cast of our own characters, so to speak, volunteers who dress up and are the on-screen celebrities for this sort of thing. And the kids just love it. And what they love as much as anything is seeing one another, understanding I'm not a freak. I'm not some strange, weird situation. I'm not pathetic. I'm not whatever. I can have fun. I can do things. It's kind of like when they come to camp, and the wigs are off and the ports are out, and they're unrestrained. So yeah, it's that whether it is in the faith area or just sheer recreational, that whole peer support thing is enormously important. Enormously. Thank you. Anyone else?
Roger, I'm sorry. Roger, you've presented a fabulous program. Nothing is more emotionally draining than to have a relationship with a child with cancer. And I'm grateful for all you're doing. I wanted to ask you, as a follow-up of Paul's statement a little earlier about Francis Collins, that's the CDC. He also, before that, worked for a couple of decades as the lead scientist in the so-called Genome Project.
Yes.
For coding the DNA. Has any of that resulted in genetic tampering that would bring some kind of cure to some forms of cancer related to children?
Yes. Now, I'm not a physician, and we don't get into the diagnostic side of our children's and families' experiences, except to tell them if the diagnosis leads you to a certain place, we'll get you there. But the answer is yes. Those children I referred to who went to the clinical trial at Memorial Sloan Kettering were in an immunotherapy study, which is a form of tampering with the body's natural response to different things. I will tell you that they are 5 of the 6 are cancer-free. That's not the same as being cured. They all had neuroblastoma, for which it's brain cancer, for which there is no known cure. But at this point, there is no sign of cancer in their bodies, and we'll see where that goes from. But yeah, some of the experiments are very much down the pathway of DNA re-engineering and so forth. We had a young lady who was invited to a clinical trial at City of Hope Hospital in Los Angeles, and needed to be there for almost 3 months. And we helped the family to literally relocate there, to find a house that together we could afford for them to rent, so they could be there with her. And it was very much down that path. I happen to know Francis just a little bit because I worked in the vaccine world a bunch of years ago when he was very active with NCI, NIH, and extraordinary people. Got to know Tony Fauci there too. So.
Well, Francis is currently the head director, the director of the National Institute of Health.
Yes.
For the former project was under the other one, George, but he is one of the people who I really think understands there's just so far we should go with the using of that type of science.
Yeah.
And but he is a very wonderful scientist and very faithful person. I think it's good to have leaders like that in this time we're in, don't you, Roger?
That's another combination of the theology that you were touching on before. In the area of ethics, science has brought us to certain pathways wherein it is possible to do something, and we have to pause for a moment and say, should we? Mm-hmm. Is this a right thing to do? And those are some of the frontiers that these scientists are traveling.
Right.
Yeah. Very true. Very true.
You said earlier that you were a cancer survivor.
That's true.
Do you care about sharing anything personal about that?
Well, it's compared to children. So the average adult cancer victim who passes from cancer loses 15 years of life. The average child loses 71 years of life. I'm a perfect contrast to cancer in a child in that I was screened at the ages that were appropriate. First for prostate cancer, which was discovered, and in 2003, I went to Dana-Farber Cancer Institute in Boston for radiation brachytherapy, and it was completely successful and effective. It was almost more like a speed bump. About a half a dozen years later, a presumed cancerous polyp was discovered in my colon, and we were able to do a arthroscopic resection of that part of the colon. Again, done. My prostate cancer came back a few years ago, and I was back at Memorial Sloan Kettering. This time it was for surgery, but it was low invasive prostatectomy. But every step along the way, it was detected early and treated completely. There has not been a new therapy developed expressly for children in over 40 years. Everything is trickle down. That was a form of economics at one time. It's still very much the case in healthcare. Pediatric oncologists are the most extraordinary group of people I've ever known. I've had occasion to work with them. I was head of fundraising for their organization a bunch of years ago. And every time something comes forward for adults, they immediately grab a hold of it and figure out if it's relevant, if there's a different delivery system, a different dosing, a different titration, a different et cetera, that would be relevant for their children. And so clinical trials are every day occurring in pediatric oncology.
Dean McMahon's been trying to get a question in here.
Yeah, Roger, I'm likewise impressed with what you do. Children touch all of our hearts. What can we do individually? How are you funded? First of all, I guess a two-part question. How are you funded?
We're funded by people like you.
Yes. Secondly, how can we as individuals and maybe as a club or a
Sure.
Rotary help you? Because
Sure.
I know that's what you're interested in here.
Yeah, we are entirely privately funded. I can tell you that 5 years ago, the budget of the organization was $107,000. Today it is almost $2.4 million. A very big part of that is the expansion challenge gift that we have been empowered with over a period of years. These benefactors are helping us get to a place where we are sustainable. Our recipe for sustainability is the usual mix of different funding sources. Obviously, we're happy when philanthropists knock on our door, but the Kids in Lids program is a fabulous program. I don't offhand know how many schools there are in Haywood County, but if half of them did what that little Camp Up Ella Grambling Elementary School did the first time they ever tried it, we would have the entire equivalent of the direct dollar support that Children's Cancer Partners provides to Haywood County families. That family I referred to, Tracy's family, $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 of support over the several years to help them get her to treatment. Our average is more like $1,500 direct support to a family, but it ranges from a few hundred to tens of thousands for a family with extreme circumstance, a quick child. So we'll cash your check in a heartbeat. We will be delighted to be assisted in different ways. I would encourage you to think as a club about putting up a very small amount of money. Maybe it's for the ice cream party, for the classroom in the school that does the best in the Kids in Lids event day, or some pizza or some little tiny will spark that and make it happen. And that program will continue year after year after year. And very quickly, people begin to discover, oh my gosh, yeah, I always wondered what happened to Tommy. He sat next to me in school last year, and now he's not here anymore. Well, he's somewhere. He's being cared for. So I would encourage you in that direction, because this does two things at once. Awareness. People don't understand that cancer is the #1 disease killer of children. They do not understand how very few places treat children for cancer. They do not understand that only 4% of all federal funding for cancer research is pediatric cancer, 4%. Or that the industry, the pharmaceutical industry, for all of the logical and investor-minded reasons, don't ever go there. They concentrate on the much larger adult market, where they can recoup their cost and earn the living that they want. So I would be happy to offer up to you a proposal of how Waynesville Rotary Club could instigate something like this. And it's a civics lesson for all of those healthy children who do something for the others who are not. Bring it on. Like I said, we'll cash your check in a heartbeat. So we are entirely privately funded. I'll make one exception to that. The CCP was able to qualify for some of the PPP funding this past year, and could not let any of their staff off because the need was there. They worked remotely, work creatively. They've had more Zoom calls and FaceTimes and telephone check-ins with families than ever before. We used to be able to visit each family in person, and that's rarely possible.
Does your private funding allow you to accept grants from foundations?
Oh, you bet. We are in a sort of a door-to-door sales mode at this point, and I'm kind of the guy. I'm retired from fundraising, but as a paid profession. But it's a distinction without a difference, because now I write the grants for them, and we have been knocking on every door of every community foundation, every county foundation. Most of the United Ways are in a kind of a downtrend and aren't taking on any new accounts at this point. We have a few that have done that. So yeah, we're in a door-to-door mode with all of them. You have the Community Foundation for Western North Carolina, Virginia Dollar and Phil Belcher and the folks there know us on a first name basis, because we're popping in an application every time the door opens.
Well, as Sandy Giles mentioned in his invocation, one of the emphasis of Rotary International is childhood health care. If you have not reached out to the Rotary International Foundation, I would recommend you do that. And the Northwestern Mutual Foundation. Mm-hmm. They had a program a number of years, not too many years ago, specifically addressing childhood cancer. And they may be still interested in funding some activities such as yours.
Yeah, we came upon a foundation based in Florida. And they turned us down this first time, which is not surprised. You know, when an organization that is as recently large as we are shows up, a lot of people, heck, the social workers at the hospitals. When we first had our expansion gift, we went to Duke and we went to UNC and places. They looked at us when we told them what we were prepared to do for the family. Said, "What? Heck, you must be kidding. No, nobody does that." We said, "Yeah, we do." Well, now they refer everybody to us, but so it's not a surprise to get turned down. But the foundation we discovered is focused on women and children, the special burden of women and children. So I went to them and said, "Look, 1/3 of our caseload are single mothers struggling to help their child with cancer through to the other side." And we got a letter back saying, "Oh, we're so sorry that we couldn't get you into the program this year. We were already oversubscribed, but please come back." So yeah, we're relentless.
Those two are quite large foundations that
Yes,
might
they
have
are.
a little more flexibility.
Yeah,
in
they
a-
are.
in a
That's
good
right.
budget.
Oh, exactly true. No, it's so yeah, it's we have a growing number of people at the local level. We've been able to identify or have been found by a lot of folks. Heck, we all have some experience with cancer. There isn't an adult on this call that hasn't been touched personally or in the family somewhere up close. And I would just say to you, 15 years of life for an adult, 71 years of life for a child. If you want to push back against the disease that struck you or your family, think about doing it in the pediatric space where you have so much more life to give. So, yeah, that's what I hope for.
Any other questions? Roger, thank you for what you do, and thank you for bringing this information to us.
Absolutely.
We can give us the full name of your organization again.
Surely will. Children's Cancer Partners of the Carolinas. If you simply go to the usual www.childrenscancerpartners.org, you'll see a longer version of the video. You will see a whole bunch of different things. You'll see a downloadable toolkit for kids and lids, and you'll have a much fuller sense of what the organization does. But we do not know of another organization nationwide that responds to the needs of these families immediately, comprehensively, and continuously to age 21. So, thank you.
That's great. Thank you very much.
Sure.
Anything else for the good of Rotary today? Cecil, what have we pledged to CART this so far?
Hold on just 1 minute. $1,270, and that will be a portion those pledges will come out on the Love Notes next week.
That was why I brought it up. If you have not made a pledge toward CART for this quarterly Love Notes, based on the appeal that Sandy and Rick put together, please do so. We still have to find a cure for Alzheimer's for those of us who are going to need it so badly.
Mm-hmm.
And Roger, thank you again for coming and being with us.
Pleased to be with you. I will send you that proposal. Dean dared me to almost, so I've got to.
Please do. Paula will be a good vehicle to get it to us. She's in line to become our president.
Aha. Okay.
Thank you again. And if there's nothing else for the good of Rotary, we will see you next week.
Wonderful. Thank you all.
Thank you.